I'd like you to meet somebody who's become a really good friend of mine over the best part of the last 50 years. Back here on the drums, Keane. Go ahead, Barry, I think you got a couple stories to tell us.
Thank you, Rick. Hiya, folks. Anybody having a good time? When you've been with someone like Gordon Lightfoot for as many years as we have been, you're put in situations, you're in such privileged situations, it creates such great memories. So we all have great stories, we all have great memories. The shorter stories I like to call I remember. Okay, so I have a few I remembers here. Do we have any Gordon Lightfoot fans in the crowd? Good. That makes it a little more meaningful. Thank you. Okay, I remember several years ago when a super fan of Gord's drove with his wife up the California coast from their home in Malibu to see a Gordon Lightfoot concert in Stockton. Gord and the superfan had gotten to know each other, so the superfan and his wife came backstage before the show. We all hung out, it was great. Gord arranged for the superfan and his wife to sit just off the stage in the wings for the show. And I had a great view of him, and he, throughout the show, gave Gord and the band several standing ovations, which was even more meaningful because this superfan had become a songwriter pretty much due to the inspiration from Gordon, the encouragement from Gordon, and the superfan had gone on to write songs like Help Me Make It Through the Night, okay, For the Good Times. Anyway, the moment that I remember the best was sitting 10 or 12 feet from Gordon Lightfoot, which in itself is pretty cool. Looking over to the right, stage right, seeing the superfan over there, Gordon was playing a song that the superfan had written, which was Me and Bobby McGee. And that was so cool to be there with these two gentlemen. And of course, the superfan was Chris Christopherson. Now, back to 1976, we had been booked to do a charity show in Boston at the Haynes Civic Auditorium. There were several acts on the show, including Dr. Hook and the Medicine Show, England Dan and John Ford Coley, and a couple of other acts that I'll get to in a minute. Because there were so many acts and there were so few dressing rooms available at the auditorium, we shared a dressing room with Gordon. We were having a meeting in the afternoon. Gordon went to use the facilities. One of the guys, I think it was Terry Clements, went out to smoke a cigar, which he was wont to do. Terry left our dressing room door open. And from my seat, I had the perfect vantage point of looking through our dressing room door to across the hall to another dressing room where Donnie and Marie Osmond were. They were another one of the acts on the show. Anyway, I couldn't get over how wholesome, pure, clean, cute the two of them were over there. I had the perfect vantage point. And I was kind of enjoying watching them interact. It was kind of cool. Then, reaching around the door jamb, came this sinister hand. It came creeping around the door jamb like this. And the hand had black nail polish, at least 1 or 2 skull rings on it, and then the head, which was basically attached to the hand, came around the corner, and in full stage makeup appeared Alice Cooper, the other act on the show. So you can't imagine, I have Donnie and Marie Osmond in my line of sight here, Alice Cooper in my line of sight here. So, does anybody remember Shirley Temple? Well, this was kind of like watching a Shirley Temple movie and Freddy Krueger shows up. I mean, it was so contrasting. Anyway, Alice Cooper, his real name is Vince Fernier. He was friends with Gord. He just came by to say hi to Gord. Very nice man. But the memory of Donnie and Marie, Alice Cooper, that's gonna last me a long time, I think. Okay, the final I remember is that we played not too far from here on Parliament Hill in Ottawa. And it was Canada Day. We played Canada Day to thousands of people. Sitting dead center in the front row was Queen Elizabeth. And I couldn't help but stare occasionally at the Queen, of course. You know, how often do you see the Queen in the audience? Anyway, at one point, our eyes met. So what's a grown boy to do? I gave her a wink. And the Queen was not amused. And I think I'm lucky this wasn't centuries before, because that might have been off of his head, right? So anyway, it all turned out fine. The Queen texted me later. It was all good. So those are just a few of my I remembers. Thank you, folks.
What is too modest to tell you is that in addition to being Gordon Lightfoot's only touring drummer for almost 50 years, he's the #1 studio drummer in Canada's played on more records. It's like, who didn't he play with? Everybody you can think of, they wanted him on the drums on their records.